Hello and welcome everyone to the University of Washington Data Science for Social Good Information session for prospective project lead applicants. My name is Emily Keller. I'm the program manager for the UW DSSG. Anissa Tanweer, the program director, will be joining us momentarily to kick us off. So thank you for your patience. Sorry for the small delay. Anissa should be here momentarily. So let's move. We can go ahead to our first slide. And the session is being recorded. We will have time for questions and answers at the end. You can put questions in the chat during the presentation. And if there's something requiring clarification, we will go ahead and answer it. Otherwise, we will take the questions at the end. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anissa Tanweer, our program director.
Hi, just in time. Sorry, I apologize for running a bit late. Just coming late from a preschool pickup. Yeah, thanks everybody who was able to join us today, and those of you who are watching this later online. Emily, you can go ahead and advance to the next slide, I believe. Okay, yeah, so today what we're going to cover is provide a brief introduction to the EScience Institute and what we do, and then we'll get into the details of the Data Science for Social Good program, an overview of what that program is like, and then we'll dive a little bit more deeply into the proposal process and talk about program logistics that are important for prospective project leads to know, and give you a little bit of a sense of the previous projects that we've taken on. So you have a sense of kind of what we're looking for and the breadth of projects that we're interested in. And then we should have plenty of time for a Q&A. I do want to note that this session is for prospective project leads. We did an information session for folks who are considering applying to become a student fellow in the program yesterday. So if you're here and you're in that camp, that would be more relevant to you. If you missed it, we are going to be posting a recording of it on our website. So that will be up pretty soon. So just to give you a sense of what the EScience Institute does as an organization, Emily, you can go ahead and advance, please. So our mission is to empower researchers and students in all fields to answer fundamental questions through the use of large, complex, and/or noisy data. We see ourselves as a hub of data-intensive discovery on campus, and really, being part of a broad cross-disciplinary community of innovators in the techniques, technologies, and best practices of data science. And this is our physical home on the University of Washington campus. That is the Physics and Astronomy Tower that you see on the corner of 15th and Pacific. We're located on the 6th floor of that building, and we have this beautiful open workspace that is open to anybody in the campus community to come and use. Our research staff and administrative staff are housed there, and we all have assigned workspaces, but there are also plenty of workspaces that are open, and anybody can come up and use them as long as there's not somebody's name tag on them. Lots of different kinds of spaces for gathering. There are comfortable couches, there's a kitchen area, tables that people can gather around, and meeting rooms that can be reserved for meetings and things like that. So this is where most of the in-person activities in our program will be taking place this summer. And this is just to give you a sense of, in particular, the disciplinary breadth of folks on the EScience research staff. We literally have folks from A to Z. We have astronomers and a zoologist and lots of disciplines in between. I see that there is a question in the chat. Just to double check, if I'm not part of the University of Washington community, can I still participate in this program? Yes, yes, absolutely. And I think we'll get into those details a little bit later. But yes, we welcome both project leads and students from any institution of higher education. And actually, project leads don't have to be affiliated with the university. Project leads can come from They can work in government, they can work for nonprofits, they can work in industry. So we're really open to working with anybody. So a bit about the kind of variety of activities that EScience implements. We have a number of programs that again are open to beyond the EScience Institute itself. We have open office hours, and anybody can make an appointment to drop in and talk with one of our data scientists. We have been running a lecture series, the UW Data Science Seminar and Community Seminar, for a number of years now. We have a number of informal training programs in data science, from tutorials to kind of intensive boot camps and workshops and hack weeks, which are sort of disciplinary focused, usually week-long, but sometimes longer events where people come together to both build their data science skills and also ideate and start new projects and collaborations together. And every quarter we offer software carpentry, which is sort of designed as really an introduction to programming for people who have not worked in Python or R. So we sometimes have those two tracks. So we will run a Python track and an R track, and we always have Python. So sometimes R sometimes happens, Python always happens. We do a winter incubator where researchers can be paired with a data scientist to kind of work intensively side by side for the course of a quarter. And of course, we run this Data Science for Social Good program in the summer, which is what you all are here to hear about. So I'm going to be talking more about that. Actually, I'm going to hand it off to Emily to give the program overview now.
Great, thank you, Anissa. So I'm going to start off. So we've been running the UW DSSG since 2015. It was initially inspired by a program with the same name that was run out of the University of Chicago, which is now at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And we incorporated elements of the data science incubator that Anissa mentioned, and that includes the close collaboration between the data scientists and domain researchers, and having the dedication of project leads to continue carrying the work forward. So our program is one among other sort of a network of similar programs at universities across the country. And we've been convening a network of organizers to share what we have learned with other universities, either who are running a similar program or interested in starting one. And we have a report about this that you can take a look at on our website. It's called the Data for Good Growth Map. So I'm going to discuss some of the primary goals of our program. The first thing to note is that Data Science for Social Good is an aspirational name, and we realize that good intentions are just the beginning when it comes to generating positive social outcomes. So we incorporate plenty of time for ethical discussions, reflections, and considering the impacts of the work from many different angles. So we approach this work as a complex undertaking in which we are all learning together. Our program focuses on serving the student fellows and training them in data science methods and best practices. And we are responsive to students' interests and ideas. And we always update the program a little bit each year based on what we hear from all participants and particularly from the students. We're interested in increasing data science capacity across fields, partner organizations, and the researchers who will be serving as project leads. And finally, we aim to positively impact society and the subjects that our projects are taking on. From 2015 to 2019, we ran the program in person at the EScience Institute. The next 2 years, we had to move online, like many organizations. And since then, we've been operating through a variety of hybrid formats. So this year, we plan to have fellows working primarily in person at our data science studio, as long as public health guidelines continue to make that possible. For project leads and as well as data scientists, we'll have the option to work either remotely or in person or through a hybrid format, depending on the selected projects. And this is something we would discuss, as we're reviewing the project proposals that come in. And the program staff, Anissa and myself and others, will be working in a hybrid format as well. And we are looking to take on 2 projects this year. So team composition, the program is structured around project teams. We select 4 student fellows for each team. And when we're making up the teams, we look for a range of disciplinary diversity and skills backgrounds. And we also take into consideration the students' interests and what they're hoping to contribute to each project. Each team will have 1 or sometimes 2 data scientists from the EScience Institute. And they come from our staff, the group that Anissa showed you a picture of earlier. The data scientists provide primarily technical and methodological guidance, and they also help with things like cloud computing, tool selection, and programming, and this will depend on the needs of each project team. And they may help as well with project management, although the student teams are largely self-organized in this area. And with the role that this information session is about, the project leads are responsible for the overall project design and vision and steering high-level goals. Project leads may have various levels of technical experience and relationships to the project. We see the project lead as the person who essentially owns the project. It was their idea, and after the summer, it will be their project to continue. And we're going to talk about this, of course, in more detail coming up. So what project leads get from participating in our program? Significant effort devoted to advancing your work in a short period of time. Exposure to new methods and approaches, the experience of working on an interdisciplinary team, which we know is both challenging and rewarding. And our program provides networking opportunities that often lead to long-term collaborations. There's also some degree of publicity, including a blog that will be written by our staff for each project that will appear on the EScience news on our website. Promotion via our networks and potential interest from media each year, particularly around the final presentations event. However, we want to note that we're very careful regarding any sensitivities within particular projects during the any publicity process. And now we are going to talk about examples of project lead affiliations. So we work with project leads for many different disciplines and sectors, and these are some examples of where they have come from in the past. We often work with academic project leads. For example, from the University of Washington, we have had project leads from, to name just a few, the Disaster Data Science Lab, School of Social Work, and the Department of Astronomy. We've worked with project leads from local agencies. That's included the Seattle Department of Transportation, the philanthropy sector, including the Gates Foundation, and nonprofits, including Conservation International. We're also open to industry partnerships. This has not happened as frequently in our program, but we're happy to receive project proposals from industry as well. What we expect from project leads. If your project is accepted into the program, first, there'll be a series of scoping meetings between the project lead and the EScience data scientists who will be on the team. And that's going to happen in advance of the summer. Those meetings are to start the process of figuring out what the work and the deliverables will be for the summer and getting structures into place for students to get started quickly when the program begins. And that may include setting up infrastructure for them to be able to access the data. With our project leads as integrated members of our teams, we ask for a commitment of 16 hours a week on average, and that will be more in the early part of the program during the onboarding. And that could be working at the studio alongside the students, or if the project leads are working remotely, this will mean being available for specified meetings during the week, having some flexibility for impromptu meetings, and also being responsive via Slack and email. Project leads are asked to participate in program-wide sessions and meetings. And one of the project leads' main roles is to provide domain expertise. So as those who are most closely involved in the topical area of the project, we look to project leads to provide the relevant literature on pre-existing work in the area, to help onboard the students, because they'll be coming from a range of disciplinary backgrounds, and they may not have specific knowledge of the area the project is focused on. We do not require project leads to have specific technical knowledge or to mentor the students in technical tools and methods. Our data scientists will help to provide that, but we also want to note that having some technical background in the approaches that the students will be using can be helpful in sustaining the project after the summer. We rely on project leads to facilitate the engagement with stakeholders who are people either involved with the project or affected by it. And we have somebody in our program who helps the students to navigate the interactions with stakeholders, but we look to the project leads especially to initiate those connections and identify who those groups or people might be. We expect project leads to be able to discuss and promote their work to some extent. So we don't take projects that cannot be discussed publicly at all. But like we mentioned earlier, we realize some projects have sensitivities that we need to be careful about, things like not revealing sensitive data or particular components of a project. So we take that seriously as well. We will be posting a description of the project on our website, and the students will make a presentation publicly at the end of the 10 weeks that will be recorded. And they will also be creating a website for each project where they give sort of an overview of the work that they've done. We promote open and reproducible work whenever possible, and all of our teams in the past have worked in GitHub for collaboration and version control. If there is a compelling reason that a project lead does not want to use GitHub, we could discuss that at the proposal phase, but we need to consider that in advance. And finally, we appreciate acknowledgement of the program in any publications that are primarily based on the work that has come out of it or was done there. And we also ask project leads to include students as authors on anything that is based on the team's work, even if they are not part of writing a specific paper. So what we expect from students, this is a full-time commitment. They're going to each receive a $9,000 stipend. And we also offer the option to apply for an additional scholarship if needed. Fellows need to be current students in both the spring and the fall. And that will be either grad students or undergraduate seniors who are starting grad school in the fall. We look for baseline programming and statistical knowledge. We don't have rigid requirements about that, but students should be comfortable using a program language to solve problems either through the knowledge they have or to be able to seek it out. International students are eligible to apply, but we cannot support visas, so they will already need to have a visa to study in the US. And we place a strong emphasis in the application process on personal statements, such as their motivation for wanting to participate in the program, what they're hoping to get out of it, and particularly their interest in working closely on a collaborative team, because that is really the crux of our program. So what you can expect from us as the EScience Institute and the organizers of this program, the data science lead who is paired with the team will be experienced in cross-disciplinary collaboration and have a wide range of expertise in the areas included here and other areas as well. And the data scientists will be matched to the team also based on their interest in the project and the methods that may be used in that project. Our program offers guidance on best practices in version control, reproducibility, ethics, and human-centered design. And we also help with team management by providing procedures and structures to help ensure that the teamwork is successful and that the members of the team are having a positive and productive experience. We provide a data science curriculum, especially in the early weeks of the summer. We have a series of trainings to get students up to speed on skills that they will need that are the most crucial during their work. Project leads are invited to participate in any tutorials that would be helpful to them as well. This is a list of the tutorials we've offered in the past. The first two are offered every year, and the others sometimes rotate based on what is needed each year for particular projects, as well as student interest. And in addition to technical tutorials, we also run a series of workshops that are discussion-based and interactive, and these are a few of the ones that we have had before. Other activities that we hold in the program, what we call project spotlights, those take place every other week, in which the fellows from each team will present some aspect of their work to the whole program. And this helps everyone get insight into what others in the program are doing to learn from each other. And it's also an opportunity to get feedback on the challenges or problems that they might be encountering from a broader community. Docathons we provide to give teams dedicated time to work on their documentation processes before the end of the program, and to underline the importance of documentation and data science. And that will be particularly helpful, I think, to the project leads after the summer as well, to have that information. Sorry. The career conversations, that is, I'm on the wrong page. Those are weekly events that we hold, and we have sort of a variety of speakers from different fields related to data science for social good, either people who are working kind of directly in a data science type of field, or also including social scientists who view data science as an object of study and talk about topics such as ethics. And that is an interactive event that the students value a lot each year. Stakeholder engagement, we spoke about a bit earlier, but that's a very important part of our programming, our program, incorporating perspectives from people who are involved in the subject matter of the projects. And social events, we tend to hold sometimes a weekly Friday afternoon event for people to just have a chance to get together outside of their work. This is often in an online environment, though they could do that in person this year as well if everyone is there together. And we also have, I think this is on the next, we have a picture that will be coming up a little bit later. One of the events we held was a online karaoke event, which was a lot of fun for people to have a chance to unwind. And with that, I am going to turn it back to Anissa.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Emily. So I'll talk a little more specifically about the project selection process and how we go about that, how we go about evaluating projects and what we're looking for. Can you go to the next slide, Emily? Thank you. So the call for proposals is open now until February 17th. Is that right, Emily? I believe it's February 17th. These slides will be posted to our website, which is why we have links in here now for general information and also a bunch of frequently asked questions. We do really encourage folks who are thinking about submitting a project proposal to reach out and meet with us before completing that and submitting it. We would love to iterate on ideas and talk through feasibility, and we want to get good projects. So we're happy to talk with people on the front end about whether or not their initial ideas seem like they're a good fit, or what could be emphasized to make it really a strong candidate for our program. And that means you're welcome to meet with myself as the program director or Emily, but also we encourage you to meet with our data scientists to talk through the technical design and aspects of the project. All of our research staff hold office hours, as I mentioned in the first part of this presentation. You're free to just kind of look at the different areas of expertise and interests that our research staff has and try to identify somebody who you think is aligned with what you're trying to accomplish in your project. But you're also welcome to reach out to me first, and I can kind of triage that and tell you who I think would be a good fit to have a conversation with. So what we're really looking for in proposals is, a solid argument and that supports how the project will lead to positive social impact. So this is what people sometimes refer to as a theory of change. So why is, we don't define what we mean by social good. We're looking for the prospective project leads to really have a strong argument for why their work is likely to lead to social impact and what kind of positive change they're trying to bring about through their work. We are looking for strong research and strong methods. The availability and commitment of the project lead is really important. As Emily told you earlier, we have kind of a high bar in terms of what we expect from involvement of project leads. We don't think of our project leads as being clients that we're doing work for and handing off to. They're really deeply integrated into the program and working side by side with our teams and providing that overall guidance and vision and helping the teams understand the domain knowledge. And so we really find that that having that that constant tempo of interaction is even more important than the amount of time, but the teams and the students being able to be in pretty constant contact with the project leads when they have questions, so that they don't end up having to wait a week for an answer that they need to move forward in their project. Clarity and shovel readiness. By that, we primarily mean the data has to be in hand. Data collection can't be a part of these projects in 10 weeks. There's just not enough time to both collect or generate data and do some kind of meaningful analysis or build some sort of tool. And so we're really looking for that data to be in hand, and for there to be well scoped questions and objectives. As Emily said, we are happy to talk with you about that scoping, both before you submit the proposal and if we accept your project into the program. There will be a series of these scoping meetings that Emily mentioned to really work with the data scientists to figure out, okay, how are we going to approach especially the first couple of weeks with the teams to get them on board, get them an early win, and what will be our larger objectives over the summer. The capacity for measurable outcomes and sustained engagement. And by that, I mean, we have had really great success working with folks who are deeply engaged in their issue areas, and the projects that we take on in this very quick, intensive 10 weeks over the course of the summer is a piece of a much bigger puzzle. We're kind of humble about what it's possible to accomplish in 10 weeks, which is a lot with 4 really bright students. They can get a lot done in 10 weeks, but we also realize that change doesn't happen, impact doesn't happen in 10 weeks. And so we're looking to build relationships with project leads who have a longer trajectory of working in the issue space that they're concerned with, and have long-term relationships with stakeholders so that they'll continue to, that the work will continue to live on through their future work. Some things that we don't do, because every year we get some proposals that are along these lines, and these are just, it's not that these things are not important, they're just not great fits with what we have to offer as an organization and our expertise, and also not great fits with the kind of students who end up applying and getting accepted into our program. So we don't build web portals for accessing data or any other purpose. Sometime in the past, there have been cases where app development has been some step along the way to some other objective, or sort of something that was happening in parallel with some primarily analytical component or something else. But we don't do app development as sort of the primary goal or objective of any of the project teams. And as I mentioned before, we don't do data collection because there's just not time in 10 weeks to do that and anything else. And collecting or generating data tends to not be in and of itself, if that's the only thing the students are working on, that tends to not be something that is feels inherently rewarding for them. So this is a very non-exhaustive list of some of the topical areas that we've taken on in the past. We're certainly open to thinking about other issues and interests. We've done a number of projects related to affordability and livability, city planning, environmental issues, equity and justice, hazards and resilience, health and wellness, housing, public education, sociodemographic disparities, and transportation. Some of the areas of EScience expertise, of technical expertise of our research staff, thinking about new platforms, new algorithms, new methods, new data sets, working with large, heterogeneous, and noisy data sets, scalable analytics and predictive models, interactive visualization, code review, publishing, and reproducibility, online teaching materials and tutorials. Okay, so program structure. As I think we mentioned a couple of times now, there's kind of there's a certain amount of thinking and planning and work that happens before the summer program begins. So if your project is accepted into the program, there will be a couple of meetings with our data scientists to go through this, what we call a scoping process, and making sure that the teams can hit the ground running when we start in mid-June. I'm sorry for the noise and interruptions. I have a shared office space at home here. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. The sort of the number of meetings that is required and kind of the tempo of those is really determined on an as needed basis between the project lead and the data scientist. So we have had projects in the past where the data science and the project lead decided to meet weekly in the months leading up, the couple months leading up to the program, and more often than not, it's more like a series of 2 to 3 meetings. We also will offer a project lead orientation prior to the start of the summer to give you a better sense of what to expect from the program and when you're needed to be present for various program-wide activities, some of which Emily mentioned in her overview of the program. And then there's the first 2 weeks of the program, which are the last 2 weeks of June. And that's really a kind of intensive onboarding into the program and into the projects for the individual project teams. So there are a number of events that are concentrated in these first 2 weeks that we really need everybody to participate in, because this is an important time for community building and rapport development and establishing kind of the ground rules and the foundation for how we're going to work together as project teams and as a program community over the course of the summer. So we will ask that project leads be available for those kind of program-wide activities in the first couple of weeks of the program. And then that's when there's also a concentration of the technical tutorials that Emily mentioned. There are some that are offered as needed throughout the summer, but the ones they're definitely front loaded into those first 2 weeks. And those are things that the students primarily participate in, but project leads are always welcome to attend if they want to. And then after the first 2 weeks, there's kind of the bulk of the summer. That's really the overwhelming majority of the students' time is going to be dedicated to working on their projects and advancing their projects. And there will be just occasional kind of program-wide meetings that Emily mentioned already. We have those project spotlights that are kind of a chance for the teams to share either the progress they're making or to try to get feedback from the broader program or work through some challenge or issue they're thinking about. We have regularly scheduled team check-ins and bi-weekly check-ins that are for the leadership in the team. So we get the project leads and the data scientists and the program administrators together every other week just to make sure that we're addressing everything that needs to be addressed and that everybody is having a productive and positive experience in the program. Like I said, there will be occasional tutorials throughout the summer. And then Emily has already talked a lot about the importance of what we call stakeholder engagement. And we do have somebody on staff that we refer to as the human-centered data science mentor, who helps to kind of facilitate those conversations and think about them as part of the research process. And then at the end of the summer, we have final presentations and a reception, and it's a nice celebration for the teams to kind of show off and reflect on the amazing work they did over the summer and the progress that they've made. And that's always a really wonderful time. So important dates are call for proposals opened as of January 3rd. Today is our information session for project leads. February 17th is when project proposals are due. We try to have a pretty fast turnaround with those to let you know if your project is going to be further considered at that point. So sometime around the 1st of March, we'll let everyone who submitted a proposal know whether or not they're advancing onto our short list of project proposals. And at that point, we'll probably want to have a meeting. And in all cases that I can think of, we wanted to have a meeting at that point to ask some clarifying questions about the proposal and get a little bit more information before making our final decision about what projects we're going to take on. The students will be getting offers of admission sometime around April 10th. And during the selection, towards the latter end of the selection process, so the student selection process is kind of happening in parallel with the project selection process. And at some point, those parallel paths come together. And when we know what projects we're taking on, we let students who are shortlisted for the program we ask project leads to give us a description that's tailored to them as an audience, and we ask the students to give us some more information from them about which projects they're most interested in and why, what they feel they have to contribute to, and what they would most want to learn from being a part of that project team. And then we kind of use that information to match the students and the projects and assigned teams. So March through June, from the time your project is accepted until the start of the program, those are those scoping meetings that I've mentioned a few times with an EScience data scientist. And then June 12th will be the first day of the program, and August 18th will be the last day of the program. So just to give you a sense of some of the projects we've taken on in the past, our summer 2022 projects included the cost of living with a self-sufficiency standard. So this was in collaboration with folks at the UW Center for Women's Welfare and the School for Social Work at the University of Washington. And they have, the Center for Women's Welfare has developed an alternative to the poverty measure that has historically been used by the federal government and then across other levels of government to determine eligibility for benefits and things like that, which is really a very imperfect measure to use because the level, what you need in order to be self-sufficient really varies across geography and depending on type of family and things like that. So these project leads already have this self-sufficiency standard, and what our team was doing was helping them kind of modernize their infrastructure and ways that their stakeholders could access the data that informs the self-sufficiency standard. We also took on another project. Actually, we had two from the School of Social Work last year. This next project was tracking family and intergenerational poverty. So this team was working with a massive merged administrative data set from the state of Washington. The researchers are interested in how policies affect poverty, but there are no great existing variables for doing that at the household level. And we know that, income is measured by an individual or a married couple, perhaps, but that the way we think of individuals is not sufficient for thinking about the different kinds of household structures and the way they what they need to be supported. And so this project was trying to figure out how you could create household variables from this merged administrative data set so that poverty researchers would be able to use it to answer the questions of interest to them. We had another project that was looking at, it was concerned with the issue of reflections from low Earth orbiting satellites and those interfering with images in astronomy, but also concerns for that other communities have about the diminishing darkness of the skies as well. And then our final project was heating loads in Alaska and beyond. And so this team was trying to estimate heating loads, which is a really tricky problem in Alaska that doesn't have very much centralized energy sources. And because this is a really important variable in trying to develop plans for decarbonization. So our team was trying to, figure out one aspect of this equation that would then in the future be used in ongoing planning for decarbonizing the Arctic. It may be clear already from just the projects that we took on last year that we have a really broad view of what counts as data science. But I just want to give you a couple examples from prior projects, historical projects, to give you a sense of kind of the breadth not just in terms of kind of topical interests, but also this kind of different places or stages in the life cycle of a data intensive project where our program might be inserted to positive effect. So this project was from way back in the day, I think maybe 2015 or 2016, one of the first years that we were running the program, mining online data for early detection of unsafe food products. So they were working with a data set of Amazon reviews to see if they could detect foodborne illness earlier than using more conventional methods. So this was like pretty exploratory work, like on the front end of kind of trying to develop a new applied research area. And then another project we supported for a couple years in a row, actually, was the Global Open Sidewalks project that was geared toward creating a shared open data layer in OpenStreetMap. And this was so that pedestrian-centric routing applications and planning could be supported through the propagation of pedestrian data, which is largely missing from OpenStreetMap and all other maps, essentially. So this project was really part of this a much bigger body of work that by a group called the Taskar Center for Accessible Technology that is developing a suite of tools to be used by people with mobility limitations and other kinds of pedestrian groups and users. And so, their work is, happening at a national scale these days. And what we were doing this summer was kind of taking a smaller, well-scoped piece of that and trying to really push on and thinking about what should this new standard for pedestrian data look like. So this is an example of us taking a project that's kind of somewhere in the middle of this much larger and longer scope of work. And then a final example is a project that happened at a kind of where we got involved, our program got involved in a much later stage of work. So this project was focused on detecting vote dilution in minority communities. And in this case, the project leads had already developed this R package called EI-Compare that was being used in various court cases to litigate violations of the Voting Rights Act. And what our team was doing was adding functionality to that package and polishing it and building out a series of vignettes to make it more useful to stakeholders who were interested in working with that package and using it in litigation. So all of that should give you a sense that we don't take a cookie cutter approach to the projects that we're interested in or that we support. And we have this really broad view of what counts as data science. We don't see it as just predictive analytics or just machine learning. And we're willing to work with project leads at many different stages of kind of the life cycle of their work. And finally, I just will end on this kind of fun note, this quote from one of our project leads who's worked with us for the last 2 years, Jenny Romick, a project lead from the School of Social Work at the University of Washington, who said, what surprised me about the program, I was not expecting for it to be as much fun as it was. We do have a lot of fun. It's a really in some ways an intense experience to be involved in. We try to do a lot and accomplish a lot in 10 weeks. And we get a lot done, but we also, develop a really strong community and have, just a lot of fun along the way. So we have about 10 minutes for questions now. I encourage those of you who are here as prospective project leads to, if you're comfortable, just, unmute, turn your video screens on if you're comfortable doing that. You don't have to, since we are recording this, or you can put questions in the chat.